Morning. It's day 3 breakfast. So I kinda opened the box already. There was actually a tub of yogurt as well, but I put that in the fridge first. Let's see what we have. Oops. Looks like a Chinese style breakfast. Alright. So I think that's chicken, the samosas, siu mai, and 2 baos, which char siu, I guess. Oh, and apple and apple juice. All right, today's apple day. I'm gonna get my cutlery and wash my hands. So it's Friday. I guess happy Friday to all of y'all. Watching this. Honestly, I wonder what the high carb version of this would have been. Like if I missed out on like lo mai kai, or I mean like glutinous rice, I think I'd be pretty pissed actually. But ignorance is bliss. So I'm gonna assume that this was the best possible option for me. You can probably tell by the rate that I'm eating my food and my lack of conversation, I'm actually pretty damn hungry. So it is char siu bao, pork buns. Hello. Oh, wow. 3 days already. Okay lah, technically 1 full day. And the first day was like flying in, sorting through all that stuff. And today's just about started. Today's like the 8th day of Chinese New Year, I think. Yesterday was Yan Yat or Ren Ri. 7th day of Chinese New Year is basically everyone's birthday. So happy belated birthday. And tomorrow is the 9th, so some Chinese communities are gonna do what's called Bai Ti Gong. Which means praying to the Sky Lord. I mean, I don't really know what the English translation of his name is, but Tian is or Ti is sky, Gong is like lord or you know, grandfather, just generally a father figure, a male figure, I would say, or god. I think this is otak, right? Yeah, this isn't. It could be a chicken again. Chicken. Odd combination with like the rest of the breakfast, which is clearly like Chinese food. Hey, but tastes good. Maybe a little bit of variety. So personal rating of 4 out of 5. Because I do like me good Chinese breakfast of like dim sum. Though I would have preferred if they had given me some lo mai kai, but that might be entirely due to my own fault for asking for a low carb dietary option. Yep. Ooh, Chi Chong Fan would have been great as well. Yeah, I'm gonna wash the apple and eat it. So hang back for a while. So I was watching a couple of YouTube videos last night. In particular, those of Two Set Violin. They're basically like a classical music duo from Australia who play the violin. So their videos or their recent videos make it clear enough that they've been in Singapore for some time. Well, it seems to me almost like they've permanently relocated to Singapore. Like if you look at their LinkedIn page for the company, at least Two Set, they now list Singapore as their headquarters. Except there's been absolutely no news about it on their own page, on the Reddit page by their fans. So I'm just wondering what's going on, right? Because like the last time another famous YouTuber came to Singapore, Nas Daily, basically the Singapore government like went out of its way to sort of poach him here. They made a big news about it. Mainly because Nas gave like a super glowing review of Singapore in his YouTube videos, which was his right to do so. But I guess what kind of like rubbed people off a little wrongly was the fact that the government kind of got itself involved like so actively poaching him. So it kind of felt that I think rightly or wrongly his videos were kind of perceived as not as objective as they ought to have been, or rather it tainted the sincerity in which like he portrayed his love for Singapore. It also rubbed a lot of Singaporeans the wrong way, right? So I think people like it when you come to the country and you say you love it and you tell them why. But it's a little bit, I mean, if you love it, if you're living in the country and there are things that you're frustrated by, and somebody comes in and say, oh, your country is the best country in the world, you have the best government in the world, you have no right to complain, comes also a little condescending. Which is why I think like his arrival and relocation to Singapore, talking about Nas, at the invitation of the Singapore government, just wasn't as well received as one would think. To a certain extent also, I guess it kind of eroded his core brand or identity, because he was always about like traveling around the world, shooting 1-minute videos. So for him to like actually settle down in one place and then like, I guess, I don't know, make content from a base without really moving as much, felt like a betrayal of his core. Which, I mean, okay, at this point probably doesn't matter because like nobody in the world can travel right now, or travel as freely as it used to be, unless they want to go through something like this. I mean, we'll see how the vaccination programs pan out. Main concern now being that one, a lot of people are actually very resistant towards getting vaccinated. I don't think it's just the general anti-vax movement that's been simmering for years. because I know a lot of people who would have went through vaccination, would send or have sent their kids to get like their regular vaccination programs like the rubella, mumps, stuff like that, but are hesitant about getting the COVID vaccines. One, it's like a mistrust of the mRNA process. Two, it's just, this is so new, right? And they're asking questions like, look, if it's safe, why are the vaccine manufacturers disclaiming liability, things like that? I think these are fair questions. I mean, as regards to the liability thing. But the obvious answer, of course, is like, look, the whole damn thing is as new as it should be. At this point, given we've gone more than a year now without being able to control it, and the absolute cost that it has wreaked on all of us and changed our lifestyle, and the fact that, look, we've gone through multiple rounds of testing in different countries, safety trials, efficacy tests. It's about safe as it can be, and I guess the most convincing argument that I can make is one based on cynicism now, right? Which is it works and you're gonna be safe getting it because the rich people and like the politicians are fighting to get themselves vaccinated first, as opposed to like farming it out to the disadvantaged in society as guinea pigs. So I'm hoping I get shortlisted for vaccination soon. If I do, I'm gonna get it. Because I think it's the morally responsible thing to do, apart from the obvious benefit that it's going to protect you from COVID as well. So unless we all of us who can, because there are people who can't, right? Pregnant women, people under the age of 16, they can't get vaccinated because there's not enough data to show whether or not it will be safely administered to them. So it's for the rest of us who can get vaccinated to get vaccinated, because unless we all do, and by we I mean actually the whole world, this thing is never gonna stop. And we're essentially running against the clock here, right? Because I think what is very clear by now is, as depressing as this may sound, there will be another pandemic, right? It's not an if, but a when. And if we go into that one without having solved the issues of this, I mean, honestly, things are not gonna look good, right? And the whole point about like the world needing to get vaccinated, I guess, brings up another topic as well, which is equitable distribution of the vaccine. Because right now what's happening is essentially buyer's market. So like the richer countries or the people who are willing to pay more are getting it first, and they're essentially hoarding it up to vaccinate all of their people. I don't blame them for behaving that way, but from a public health perspective, right, that may actually be counterproductive. Because look, you may vaccinate your entire country, but if by doing so at first But if by doing so you deny the places which require the vaccines the most um, an opportunity to access vaccination, or essentially to get vaccinated, um, it's going to allow the virus essentially to run rampant there. And what we've seen over the course of the year is that whenever the outbreak gets out of control, new variants are going to come out, right? We've seen that in Brazil, we've seen that in South Africa, we've seen that in the UK. I wouldn't be surprised that honestly it's been happening in a lot of other countries as well, which have seen like surges, say for example in Malaysia. It's just that maybe we're not testing for, hey, is there a new genetic variant? So my point is, if by protecting yourself, you deny protection to those who need it, it may come back and bite you, because once a new variant comes out in the places where the virus is not controlled, it's going to come spreading back to you, right? And your vaccine may not work, and then you're back to square one. Whereas if we had all like vaccinated equally throughout, targeting like the most critical people first, because there's always going to be, I think, some sort of decreasing amount of utility after you vaccinate like the core people who need to do it, and then stage by stage. It's kind of why like vaccination at this point is tiered, right? And there are priorities on who needs to get vaccinated and who doesn't. And there's also like outbreak control requirements. I guess the long and short of it is, you know, in an ideal world, the vaccines should be distributed globally, based on a public health perspective of where do they need to go first in order to ensure that the global outbreak is controlled. But right now it's kind of being broken down along national lines, and even within that there's going to be a lot of inequity, right? So take Malaysia for example. I think they've published their vaccination roadmap, and some commentators have looked at it and say, look, we need to ask, how are we going to vaccinate the rural community of Malaysia? Because according to the map and like the vaccination centers that are presently drawn up, there is I won't say it's a disproportionate, but there's a higher concentration of the vaccination centers on the west coast of West Malaysia, right? Which are all mainly like the urban areas, Klang Valley and all that. And it makes sense to a certain extent, because I mean that's where most Malaysians live. But I mean it's one thing to control for population density, but it's also something else to consider. Like you need to have enough distribution points even for the rural community to make the vaccine essentially accessible to them. And Malaysia is going to have a lot of accessibility issues, because there are going to be areas in like East Malaysia, for example, which are only accessible by way of boat up a river. So it's going to be a challenge, right? Even within nationally, on how do you distribute the vaccines in an equitable manner. And then you compound that on a global level, where certain countries are not even getting access to vaccines, or are getting vaccines. It's a very diplomatic issue at this point, right? Also because like a lot of countries are manufacturing different vaccines of their own, and sort of like giving or selling it out, or granting access to it as a diplomatic bargaining chip. Yeah. I just want to say that Apple is really nice. Yeah, good Apple. I guess I just want to end by saying, honestly, a lot of people in the world right now are probably not getting the access to the vaccine which they ought to, or which they need to. So if you have the privilege to get vaccinated, please don't just reject it out of hand. Because there's a lot of misinformation and fear out there, right? And it's a real privilege if you are actually granted access to a vaccine right now. So don't squander that privilege. Just to make myself clear, what I'm saying is, if you can get vaccinated, please get vaccinated. Apple juice, produced by Sunfresh Singapore Private Limited. So, yep, that's breakfast for the day. I'm going to take my temperature now and check in with the front desk. So I will see you for lunch. Bye bye.